Hi guys, Mr. Hill here. I hope you enjoyed the snow that we had yesterday. You got outside and you enjoyed building snowmen, having snowball fights, and generally enjoying having a lovely time outside. It's really important for us to be doing that at the moment, as we said in our live session on Friday. So maths today. We started off with multiplication and division. We've got to the end of that. We're going to start looking at fractions. Now we're going to need to be able to use some of our division knowledge to help us with our fractions. But today we're going to be looking at explaining what a fraction is. Before we get started, some key vocabulary for you. The numerator, our top number. So letter A is our numerator. It enumerates. That's just a really fancy way of saying it counts how many of the denominator there are. The denominator is the part of the whole which is being counted by the numerator. So the denominator is how many parts the whole has been split into. So if we use a pizza, for example, I can cut it into 4 slices. So if I was using pizza, my denominator would be 4. If I cut it into 6 slices, my denominator would be 6. And then if I ate 2 slices of those 6, my numerator would be the 2 to show how many I've eaten. Or if I wanted to know how many was left, that would be 4. So there are 4 slices out of the 6 left to share around. Between these two numbers, you have the fraction bar. So it separates the numerator and our denominator. It's a symbol for division as well. So we can use it for that. So it gives us, so where we've got our divided by symbol, it's actually a fraction bar with 2 dots either side of it. Let's see what you remember from when you last did fractions. Question 1, what fraction is shaded? Question 2, is more or less than a third shaded? Question 3, what fraction of the dwarves are not grumpy? And question 4, what is half of 72? Pause the video here to answer these questions. How much do you remember? Let's find out. Question 1, what fraction is shaded? My shape's been split into 5 equal parts and 2 of those are shaded. So 5 will be my denominator and 2 will be my numerator. So there we have 2 over 5. Question 2. My shape has been split into 3 pieces. We can see that, but they're not equal. So I'm going to say less than a third has been shaded, which is correct. What fraction of the dwarves are not grumpy? So let's look. How many dwarves have we got? Well, there are 7 dwarves, as we know, and there's only one of them that's grumpy, so that leaves us with 6. So 7 is our denominator, 6 will be our numerator, our fraction is 6/7. Question 4, what is half of 72? Now we can use what we've done in division last week to help us with this. If we're finding half of something, we divide it by 2. So half of 72 is 72 divided by 2, which gives us the answer of 36. So we're going to look at a fraction here, 1/4. We're going to need to remember the denominator. How many equal parts there are. It's really important to remember this, equal parts. It's no good having something cut into 4 parts where one part is really small, one part's somewhere in the middle. We've got one enormous part and then a really, really tiny little teeny piece left over. It doesn't work. So it needs to be equal parts. Our numerator tells us how many of the parts we're using. So if you think back to when we did our division, we split numbers into equal parts. So we divided by our number that we were dividing by to get the number that was equally shared. So this is how we need to remember for our fractions as well. It needs to be equally shared. So my example here, I've got my shape cut into 4 pieces, but are they equal? You're right, they're not. This is how they should look. This is 4 equal shares. And just to show you, I'm going to take this pink square and I'm going to show you through each one. So it's equal, 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 equal. They're all the same. So this is really important to remember. So using that knowledge, have a look at these. Pause the video here to complete your work. How did you get on? Let's look at A first. I've got a square made into 4 small squares. One of them's been coloured in. Yes, they are. And we know that because they're equal, they're all the same. What did you say for B? If you said no, you'd be correct. And the reason for that is the stars are not equal. We have 2 large stars and 2 small stars. And this is what I was saying earlier on. They need to be equal shares. Now C, how did we get on with that? If you said it's not a quarter, I'm really sorry, but you're wrong. It is a quarter. I've just shaded half of one quarter in and half of another quarter in. So just to show you, it does make 1 quarter. So this one, yes, it does show a quarter. Now D. D is slightly different because we don't have 4 parts. We actually have 5 equal parts. And 1/5 is not the same as 1 quarter. So there we go. That's your answer there. So you need to remember equal parts. So each part needs to look the same. And we need to make sure we have the right number of parts as well. So we'll look at these triangles. There are 5 equal parts. I have shaded 2 of them. 2 out of those 5 parts are shaded. My fraction will be written with a numerator of 2 and a denominator of 5, and my fraction bar in the middle of those 2 numbers. So it'll look like this. Moving on. These fractions have got a special name. I wonder if you know what it is. You need to look at the numerator for each one. So it's not 1/7, 1/4, and 1/3. They're all got the same numerator. They've all got different denominators. They all have a special name. So if the numerator is 1, it is a unit fraction. So it's something we'll need to remember as we go through this, because there might be some questions that ask us what a unit fraction is. So if your numerator is 1, it is a unit fraction. So any of these, 1/700, 1/2, 1/3400, and 1/19, they're all unit fractions because the numerator is 1. What do you think these might be called? So again, we need to look at our numerators. So if it's not 1, it's a non-unit fraction. So it's really simple. If there's a 1 over something, it's a unit fraction. If it's anything else over that number, it's a non-unit fraction. Some examples here. 143/700, 2/2 could also be written as a whole, so 1. 6/3400 or 9/19. These are all non-unit fractions. So just remember this. If you've got a 1 over your denominator, so 1 as your numerator, it is a unit fraction. Anything else is a non-unit fraction. Your turn now. Some questions for you to complete. Pause the video, complete your work, and press play when you're ready to carry on. How did you get on with those? If you feel like you've struggled with these, I would suggest you go back and watch the beginning of the video again, just to help you along a bit. Maybe jot down a few of these questions that you think you've got really stuck with. Watch the video over again and have a look at them with me talking you through it. If you're happy, we'll carry on with our answers. So, question 1, part A, 1/5, 1/5 is shaded. B, 3/5, so 3 out of the 5 are shaded. C, 3/4 are shaded. D, 4/7 are shaded. So we need to count the number of parts that our shape's been split into. That gives us our denominator. And we count the number that are shaded, which gives us our numerator. Shade each diagram to represent the fractions. Now you might have needed to draw these out, so just make sure you've split it into the right number of pieces and that you've shaded the right number of pieces. Question 3, we've just touched on that, unit fractions. They've all got 1 at the top, so 1/3, 1/5 and 1/8 that are circled on the screen. How do you know they're unit fractions? Because they all have 1 as the numerator. Question 4, tick the shapes with 1/3 shaded. So we need to look at the number of pieces it's been cut into. So D is 3 pieces, E is 3 pieces, and C is 3 pieces. So is B, but B is not 3 equal pieces, whereas C, D, and E are. So complete the sentences to describe the shapes with 1/3 shaded. There are 3 equal parts. 1 out of the 3 parts is shaded. Well done if you've got all of those right. If you haven't, maybe go back, watch over again, and just make sure you're using what we've shown you the right way round. Make sure you haven't got yourself a little misconception or a misunderstanding somewhere. Maybe you've put the numerator on the bottom and the denominator on top. It can happen. Don't worry. It's all practice. You'll get it. Let's move on with the next part of our lesson. So we've got a number line here, and we're going to try and put 2/5 on our number line. Where's it going to go? Well, we look at our number line and it's split. So we've got 1, 2, 3. It's split into 5 parts. So where do we think roughly 2/5 might go? Where do we think? Just have a rough thought in your head. Maybe just sort of look at the spot you think it's going to go to. So the whole thing is 1. So we've got to split it into 5 equal parts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We've done that. We've got 5 equal parts there. We've checked it. So when you're doing this, you'll be needing to check it with a ruler if you're doing it with a number line to make sure you've got your marks in equal places. Otherwise, you're not comparing the same things. So how do I find 2/5? 1/5, 2/5, 3/5, 4/5, 1. Now, the reason we don't write 5/5 is because we've got the complete thing there now. We've got all 5 parts together. So if you're working with a fraction that's got an equal numerator and denominator, you can just write 1. You don't need to write 5/5 or 10/10 or 4,322 over 4,322. You can write them as 1 because they are one whole thing. So we've looked at this now. 2/5 is our second mark along. So as I was saying, 5/5 is the same as 1. 2/5 is going to go just there. So well done if that's where you said it went. So it's again making sure we have equal parts that are the same. Your turn. Have a go at these. Where do you think 4/5 will go on number 1, 3/7 will go on number 2, and 1/3 will go on number 3? If you're drawing these out in your book, please make sure you use a ruler and you measure the gaps to make sure they are equal. Pause the video here to complete this. Ready for some answers? Here we go. 4/5 is going to go there. 3/7 is going to go there. And 1/3 will go there. So if we look at the parts these are split into, number 1 is split into 5 equal parts. So we're going to find the 4th equal part, the end of that 4th part. Same for 2, it's 3 out of the 7 equal parts. And 3 is 1 out of the 7 equal parts, out of the 3 equal parts even. So it's quite easy to get yourself in a muddle because I've just done it myself. So we need to remember when we're looking at fractions, we concentrate on what the denominator is showing us first and then look at the numerator. 1/2. So this one's a little bit trickier. because we've got it split into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 equal parts, but it's asking me to find a half. So I need to think, how am I going to work this out? 1/6, 2/6, 3/6, 4/6, 5/6, 6/6, or 1. Where's a half going to fit into all of this? Have a little think for a minute. Can you work it out? How are you getting on? Do you want a little clue? Watch the screen here. Did you see it? 3/6. 3 is half of 6, so it's an equivalent fraction. So this is something we'll be looking at as we go through with our module on fractions. 3/6 is the same as a half. So if we split our 6 up, we can see half goes in the middle. The reason for this is if we divide our numerator into our denominator, 3 divided by 3 is 1, 6 divided by 3 is 2. So it gives us our 1/2, it gives us our half. So that's going to go in there. Which of these is a half? Have a look at the numbers. Can you divide the numerator equally into the denominator? Have a think. We all know that half of 10 is 5. So 6/10, that's 1/10 too many. So it can't be that one. 21 times 2. Well, 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. So 21/42, that one is a half. Let's have a look at the others. 100, half of 100 is 50. 49 is not 50, so that can't be right. It's not that one. 37 is an odd number, so it can't be divided by 2. So for an odd number, we need to remember that it's not 2 is not a factor of it. So the only one on there that is a half is 21/42. So if you said that, well done. Right, have a go at these. Remember, we're looking at equal parts. We're looking at where the middle of those will be. See if you can work it out. Off you go. How did we get on? If you haven't quite finished, just pause the video a second and finish up, and then press play when you're ready to go. If you've got them sorted, let's have a look. So number 1, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 equal parts. What's half of 8? 4. Well done. So that's going to be halfway along. So we need to go to our 4th line, this one here. Now, number 2, I may have been slightly sneaky because I've actually got 2 at the end of my number line. I've got 1 in the middle. So I need to just look from 0 to 1. How many parts have I got? 1, 2, 3, and 4. 2 is half of 4. So my half is actually going to go here. Don't worry if you put it where the 1 is. I was sneaky and I may have caught you out. Number 3, 7 sevenths. 1, 2, 3, 4. How do I do this one? I've only split my number line into 5. Hang on a minute. What did I say earlier on? If the denominator is the numerator is the same as the denominator, I can write it as 1. There, that's where it'll go. Well done if you got these. If you didn't, don't worry. Maybe go back the last little bit, just over again, so you're understanding how we're looking for equivalent fractions within different numbers. Okay, what fraction of these are green? How can we work it out? Well, I've got 5 in total. 3 of them are green. 3/5, 3/5. So, as I said, 3 are green out of 5 in total. 3/5. Hang on a second, let me just fix that because that shouldn't be there. There we go. Now we can see what it says. So 3 out of the 5. 3/5 in total are green. What fraction of blue? We can do this one of two ways. We can count how many circles there are. There are 5, there are 2 that are coloured in blue. Or we can use what we already know. There are 5 in total. I know 3 of them are green. I don't need to go back and count them all because I know 3 add 2 makes 5. So we're going back to 5 whole parts. We're going back to 1. So the fraction that are blue is 5 take away 3, which leaves me with the 2. The 2 are blue out of 5 in total, 2/5. So there's 2 different ways of working this out. We can go back and count the circles, which some of you might find easier. But as we go forward, we'll be looking for what goes with the fraction to complete the whole. So we need to be thinking of it that way around as well. But for today, not so important. Your turn. Have a look at these questions. Read them carefully because there's a couple in there that might trip you up if you don't read them properly. Pause now to complete this. Right, how do we get on? Starting with number 1. What fraction are yellow? We need to know how many we've got in total. We've got 3 in total, 2 of them are yellow, 2/3. Number 2, what fraction are not red? I've got 6 in total, only 1 of them is red. So I can either go back and count them all up, or I can work out, or I can know that 6 take away 1 makes 5. So 5 out of the 6, 5/6 are not red. Question 3, what fraction are white? Well, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 8 there in total. 3 of them are white. So it's 3/8 or 3/8. There we go. Well done if you got those. So all we're looking for is the number of parts that the whole that makes the whole, and then what the information we're being asked to find is. Okay, question for you. Is more or less than a quarter shaded? And I want you to give me a reason as to how you know. Pause the video here just for a minute, have a really good look at this and a think, and see if you can write down what you think. Right. What did we think? Is more or less than a quarter shaded? It's more. We have cut this into 4 equal parts, but we haven't cut it into 4 equal parts, have we? That red part that's shaded is much bigger than the other 3 parts. Let me show you. Got 4 parts overall. These 3 are equal. The first one I've shaded isn't. They're all the same size, they're all equal. If I just show you, look, I haven't split my shape up equally. So this here is more than a quarter. It's bigger than the other 3 parts. Okay, over to you guys now. Complete your work. Pause the video to do that now. Ready for some answers? Let's have a go through. Question 5, there are your answers there. Check them there. So if you've drawn out your number line, make sure you've used a ruler and you've got them equally spaced along. It's really important to get in the habit when we're using fractions that things are equal. Question 6, 5/5 is the same. Remember, if we said the denominator was the same as the numerator, or sorry, the numerator, even getting myself in a muddle now, the numerator equals the denominator, then it's written as 1. So we've got different representations of 3/4. So long as you've got something that's split into 4 equal parts, and you've shown me that 3 of them are colored in, marked off, then you've got that one right. We've got some 2D shapes drawn here. We've got 7 in total. There's 1 triangle, that's 1 out of the 7. Squares, we've got 3 out of the 7. The fraction that has 4 sides, we've only got 1 triangle, that's got 3 sides. 6 out of the 7 have got 4 sides. And then we need to draw some 2D shapes that match the description. So we've got to have 1/5 of them are square. So we need 5 shapes in total. 1/5, so one of those shapes needs to be a square. 2/5, so 2 of those shapes need to be a triangle. 3/5 have more than 3 sides. So you could have drawn 2 triangles, 1 square, and any other shape with as many sides as you liked. You could have drawn octagons or hexagons. You could have drawn a decagon, 10-sided shape if you wanted to, so long as it's got more than 3 sides. Okay, well done today, guys. You've worked really well. I'll see you tomorrow for the next one. And as always, if you've got stuck with something during this lesson, go back, have another look through the video, look for the bit that you got stuck with, and then redo it, bring that knowledge back and have another go at the question. Stay safe, and I'll see you again soon.